Out here learning my Streetstar, getting to know each other a bit. Thought I was going to get skunked by the wind, but it's okay. There's my safety setup. Kite's actually pretty well behaved. It's a bit gusty today, so we'll see what we can do. So today I'm going to introduce you to the various kites I'm going to take to Hardangervidda. This here is the Longstar, 7.5 meter. You can see it's quite high aspect ratio. It's a single skin kite. The leading edge is all formed with these spacers here, lots of bridling, and usual long lines all the way to the back. I'm going to spray paint these bridle lines red so that I can see them against the snow. Quite a good idea. So here we have basically a very depowerable, pretty high aspect ratio kite. Flags out on the safety, 7.5 square meters. It's not specifically a mountain snow kite. We're going to see how it goes, but it's certainly very fast. I've had it in the air a couple times before. With the Born-kite's own control bar and safety on the back there. So key aspects here, relatively simple bridling and not too much additional fabric. So this here is a Peak Flysurfer. It's 9 square meters. It has actually 2 different kinds of safety. Currently it's set up for frontline safety. It also has a reef line safety, which I may or may not install. Some significant differences. You can see that it's a much lower aspect ratio. That's to say that the ratio between the length of the kite and the width is much closer. Here you see the ratio between the length of the kite and the width of the kite. It's very narrow against length. Here, quite wide against the length. So you lose a bit in performance, but what you gain is a huge amount of deep power. So this kite is specifically designed for the mountains. It's already launchable in about 3 knots of wind and fully depowered. It's quite capable of handling the kinds of summit winds that you get. It's quite a lot more fabric involved in it, so the shape is held here by these veins. But all in all, the kite is also still quite light, and the bridling is also really quite stiff, which is helpful because the major hassle with all this stuff is always, of course, line tangles, big nuisance. So those are my 2 big kites here for pulling me and the pulk, or me uphill, or basically just for booming and zooming, kind of like jet planes. Disadvantage, of course, long lines means tangles, but advantage is that you can spiral and figure eight the kite to very much increase its forward speed. And these things are wings, not just plain bits of cloth, so they develop lift and therefore speed by having the wind going over the airfoil, so you want them to produce forward motion. It's for the same reason as a sailing boat is slower downwind than on a half-wind course. So then to my two street kites. These are on much shorter lines. You can see the control bar is right here. These are one-hand steerable kites. This one is a 6 meter. That one is a 4 meter. Again, they are single skin kites with a proper shape, same as the Longstar. The aspect ratio is a little bit not quite as high as the Longstar. But that's also to do with the fact that it's on such short lines. So these lines are also going to get spray painted red. But the revolution with this is really how short the line is and how close to the control bar you are. Disadvantage, of course, is that you cannot make speed in the same way by circling the kite at the end of the long line. Advantage, extreme controllability, 0 tangles, and you basically throw it out of the bag and you're good to go. Quite unique setup here for the control bar. The thing is actually designed to be flown with one hand. So that will be go faster, go slower, go left, go right. And this is probably the kite that I will have with me for the sprint, basically because I cannot be doing with tangles. One thing I cannot tolerate is having the lines and the bridles tangle all the time, because I'll have to make plenty of transitions. With this kite I can transition in about 45 seconds. You have the safety up here. Essentially it's connected to the little harness, and if you let go, the whole thing just flags out to the back. Here's a trapeze, basically super simple little attachment point that'll come on my harness. And the idea with this is not to race or to have mega speed or any of that stuff, but simply to be able to rest during the skiing trip and during the parts of the area where we have nice wind. Lean back and just relax. So this kite has actually been specially prepared for me by Born-kites. Thank you, dudes, you rock. It has much stiffer bridle lines. I'm going to also paint these red so I can see them. And I have a very similar kite, just a bit smaller. This is a 4 meter version of the same thing, for very strong winds. So this is basically a 4 square meter version of that. It has exactly the same bar, it has exactly the same characteristics. I've actually been flying around with this thing in maybe 60-70 km/h winds. It's completely benign. So these basically are safe, simple, uncomplicated kites. You lose a bit of power and performance, but you gain in complete lack of complexity and extreme ease of handling. So for the sprint part, this is all I need. Of course, the faster you go, and the kite being pointing in this direction, the faster you go, the more wind comes over the leading edge, the better and better it gets. So these kites might have a lower initial pull, and you might not feel like they're quite as powerful when you're just standing with them in a breeze, but actually as soon as you pick up speed, then that disadvantage. So of course the other advantage of these single skin kites is that they're extremely light and extremely easy to carry, which for the sprint of course is quite a key characteristic. And I'll blend in the weights underneath here. So weights and wind ranges. So on top of course having the kites, I also have to use them and know how to use them. So I'm going to go and visit the kite school in Achensee tomorrow for some coaching, and then when I get up to Norway I will go to Haugastol up there to the kite surf center with my gear and just let them show me around a little bit and get a hang of the local conditions that we're in. So that was the introduction to the kites I'm taking. So just to summarize, long line, big kites with huge D-power for pulling the pulk around and me uphill. And short line one-handers for the sprint depending on the weather conditions. Thanks for watching, and yeah, you'll be seeing more about my prep and everything that I'm doing as we continue. And I've been skunked by the wind for the past 15 to 20 days here, so I'm looking forward to actually getting some at some point.